Let's talk about what's happening as far as assembly elections are concerned and the campaigning spree of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who's leading the election blitz in the critical poll-bound states, the Hindi heartland, Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan, the two big states in the run-up to 2024 general elections. Prime Minister Modi played the signature Vikas card, and in the state of Rajasthan, he accused the Congress party of corruption and misgovernance. Highlighting the government's G20 success, he said that India's global position is on the rise. He further added that his administration has achieved something that the opposition could never do. He highlighted the passage of the Women's Reservation Bill in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha and argued that no government, including the Congress party, could stand by this bill for more than 3 decades. In a very stern message to the opposition, especially the Congress party, he argued that Congress is being run by quote-unquote urban Naxals, and that's the root of the problem. But one thing is abundantly clear, that when it comes to the political discourse in states like Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, it's going to be the Vikas model, the double engine ki sarkar that the BJP has spoken of in many other state elections. And the women's vote bank, or the bid to woo the women voters, is something that all political parties will go all out for. That's our focus on Viewpoint.
मध्य प्रदेश में भाजपा की सरकार को लगभग 20 साल पूरे हो चुके हैं। यानी जो युवा इस बार के चुनावों में पहली बार वोट डालेंगे, उन्होंने भाजपा की सरकार को ही देखा है। ये युवा सौभाग्यशाली हैं कि इन्होंने एमपी में कांग्रेस का वो बुरा शासन, वो बुराइयां उन्होंने देखी नहीं है। एमपी में कांग्रेस के शासन की पहचान थी कुनीति, कुशासन और करोड़ों का करप्शन। आजादी के बाद मध्य प्रदेश में लंबे समय तक कांग्रेस का ही शासन रहा, लेकिन कांग्रेस ने साधन संपन्न मध्य प्रदेश को, समर्थ युवाओं वाले मध्य प्रदेश को बीमारू बना दिया। दोस्तों, बीमारू बना दिया। कांग्रेस पहले बर्बाद हुई, अब बैंकरप्ट हुई, और अब कांग्रेस ने अपना ठेका दूसरों को दे दिया है। कांग्रेस को अब कांग्रेस के नेता नहीं चला रहे, अब कांग्रेस एक ऐसी कंपनी बन गई है, नारों से लेकर नीतियों तक हर चीज आउटसोर्स कर रही है। और ये ठेका किसके पास है जानते हैं? कांग्रेस का ठेका अब कुछ अर्बन नक्सलियों के पास है। कांग्रेस में अब अर्बन नक्सलियों की ही चल रही है। ये ग्राउंड पर कांग्रेस का हर कार्यकर्ता महसूस कर रहा है। इसलिए कांग्रेस जमीन पर भी लगातार खोखली हो रही है। कुछ दिन पहले ही लोकसभा और राज्यसभा में माताओं, बहनों, बेटियों के लिए 33% सीटें आरक्षित करने का कानून पारित हुआ। नारी शक्ति वंदन अधिनियम देश ने नया इतिहास रच दिया है। दशक से देश की माताएं, बहनें इसका इंतजार कर रही थी। बल्कि ये तक कहा जाने लगा कि शायद ये कभी नहीं हो पाएगा। आखिर मोदी है तो मोदी है तो हर गारंटी पूरी होने की गारंटी है। गहलोत सरकार ने राजस्थान के लोगों के, यहां के युवाओं के 5 महत्वपूर्ण वर्ष बर्बाद कर दिए और इसलिए राजस्थान के लोगों ने ठान लिया है, गहलोत सरकार को हटाएंगे, बीजेपी को वापस लाएंगे।
Well, many argue that the road to the 2024 Lok Sabha elections and the victory of the assembly elections are correlated. And these elections, the assembly elections, are being seen as the litmus test or some kind of a precursor to the big elections of 2024. Joining us on the broadcast, Shazia Almi, the national spokesperson of BJP, Anshul Trivedi of the Congress Party, Chaitanya Singh, who is the spokesperson of NCP, is also joining us on the broadcast. Mr. Rashid Kidwai, who is an author and senior journalist, is also with us on the show. Good evening to all of you. Thank you so much for joining us. Anshul, we played out the reactions or the voices that had come in through that rallies that the Prime Minister had done and the various statements that he made through the course of the day. I want to open the show with your comments on what he said about the Congress Party. And the Prime Minister launched a scathing attack on the Congress Party and argued that the Congress Party has outsourced its policies, and I'm quoting him, to urban Naxals, preventing the passage of the Women Reservation Bill. It's a serious charge to make that you made a promise to the people of this nation, but you never fulfilled it. Your reaction, your response.
Am I audible?
You're audible, perfectly audible. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So, first of all, what the Prime Minister, we don't have a Prime Minister. Pradhan Mantri nahi hai, Prachar Mantri hai. That's all that he does. He's not a PM, he's an EM, event manager. He goes from state to state, campaigns, tells lies, gets rejected by people, and then comes back again. Now, as far as his allegations are concerned, they are very laughable. The Congress is run by Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge. He's a devout Ambedkarite. And to cast aspersions and allegations of such kinds is not befitting of a Prime Minister. But he has never held the dignity of office that was required by the Prime Minister. As far as the Women's Reservation Bill is concerned, you see, it was the Congress which first initiated this in the local bodies across the country through Panchayati Raj. It was the vision of Mr. Rajiv Gandhi. It was implemented by Narasimha Rao ji, and we ensured then and there that the women had representation in local bodies. And it was the Congress which introduced it in 2009-10. At that time, we could not get it passed. This time, what he has given is not women's reservation. It is Jumla. He has linked it to delimitation and census figures, which will come after 10 years. We don't know what will happen. And ये जुमला पकड़ा के फिर से अपनी दुकान चला रहे हैं. We demand from the Congress Party, listen to me. We demand from the Congress Party that make the quotas for OBCs there and implement it right now. We supported it in the parliament.
मैं आपसे यही पूछने वाली थी अंशुल जी, that if this is just a jumla, then why did all political parties support it on the floor of the house? Shazia Almi, please go ahead, make your agenda. I'll come back to you. Anshul, I'll come back to you. Shazia Almi, please go ahead.
So I'll come to Madhya Pradesh specifically, and by the reference to what was the part of the Bimaru states, a term coined by Ashish Bose many years back, and now it is no longer part of the list. And Madhya Pradesh is very well out of it, so is Uttar Pradesh. So I think the acronym Bimaru doesn't stay. But let me tell everybody, as enunciated by my friend from Congress Party, what is the idea of democracy? Prime Minister, according to them, is a Prachar Mantri. He keeps doing false propaganda. People keep voting for him. That means by just saying this, he did not even only mock the Prime Minister, which is his right to do, because a Prime Minister is the tallest face of this largest political party of the world, but he's also mocking the wisdom of all the voters by saying voters go for propaganda. So voters are big fools according to Congress party, and I think voters will show you what a big fool you are to call them fools. That's one thing. Secondly, he talked about so and so person being an Ambedkarite. You all know how Congress party treated Ambedkar and how you had a candidate who made sure that Ambedkar got defeated, not B.R. Ambedkar ji, how he was defeated not once but twice. And this was the handiwork of Congress. So less said about Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the better. Thirdly, and more importantly, about women's reservation bill. Right now, look at your double speak. Right now on your channel, Anushka, we just heard him call it a jumla. And what were you doing? What were you doing in the parliament? Both the houses? Quietly sitting, being signatory to this jumla. I mean, it's a matter of great shame that you do something in the parliament, which I can tell you everybody watched.
So, Shazia ji, there's also this particular demand of OBC reservation.
I made certain particular.
Yeah, I'm raising that with her. I'm raising that with her. Shazia ji, there's also this particular demand of OBC reservation within the women's reservation bill, within the women's quota. Yeah.
Anusha,
and not linking it to census.
Yes.
This is the reason. This is exactly the reason why the bill was not passed for 27 years. In fact, Sonia Gandhi, she keeps tom-tomming the fact that she was the one who got the bill passed in Rajya Sabha. Ask her and ask him, was the OBC reservation there? And come discuss it, make sure it happens. You're asking for a caste census, you don't even know. They did a caste census in Karnataka. Their party, they could not even table it. Tell me, how will you identify a number of OBCs? How will you identify?
I'll bring in.
You all know that you're talking about.
Can I respond, because it's been asked with me?
One second. Yes, please go ahead, Anshul, make your point. 30 seconds to you. Then I want to bring in other guests also into the discussion.
Yeah, so the thing is that we already have the data of the SCCC that we had done in our previous government, and we should make it public. Now, it's very interesting that the Prime Minister has linked the issue of women's reservation to the census and to delimitation. But when we say
there's
that
an 84th amendment,
I'll come back to you, Shazia ji. All right, one at a time. Please go ahead. Anshul, make your point. Then I'll give her the time to respond. First your point, then I'll go to other guests. Yes.
So it's interesting that the Prime Minister has linked the reservation of women to the census and delimitation. But when we say that we want to have a relook at issues of social justice and reservations, when Rahul ji raises the point that why there are only 3 secretaries out of 90 in the central government, let's have a caste census so that we have accurate data to make policies. They say that we will not have caste census. They are trying to beat around the bush. So that is their double speak.
Can I just answer that?
One second.
It was.
No, this is a.
No. Shazia ji, I'll give you the time to respond. You can note that point and you can come back and respond to that. Anshul, you have made your point. There are other panelists as well, patiently waiting for their turn. Chaitanya Singh. 1 second. Shazia ji, I'll come back to you. Please allow me 2 minutes. Chaitanya Singh. There's an interesting development that has happened as we were gearing up to do our 6 p.m. show today, that AIADMK has snapped its ties with the BJP. Many argue that the allies for the BJP in the NDA right now have not really survived, or the manner in which the allies ought to be treated. This is one point that the opposition parties have also raised with respect to the BJP. Do you think that this women reservation bill is something that will be able to get BJP the kind of place and position that it wants in the Hindi heartland, in states like Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan, especially in MP where the Congress party seems to be very, very confident?
Look, I feel that the women's reservation bill is going to have far-reaching benefits for people at large. Let's not talk about electoral benefits to any party. Obviously, the BJP had the Prime Minister Narendra Modi had the resolve to bring this on the floor of the House and pass it. If the Congress wanted, it could have done so back in the past, but it did not. So obviously, there was a lack of some kind of will. Where there is a will, there is a way. So obviously, women voters will definitely support the NDA. Women voters are so elated. The women of this country are so elated that they have been sitting in the back lines for almost 70 years. India has gained independence. Finally, they are getting some sort of recognition. And of course, the women are definitely going to, they see that it's the Narendra Modi NDA government that has brought this bill and passed it. There are certain technicalities involved, but any law to any law for it, I mean, any bill for it to be made a
Okay.
law, there are certain technicalities. It
Mr.
has to be
Mr.
taken into
Rashid Kidwai,
consideration.
in your experience, sir, in your expertise, the fact that this is a contingent legislation, which means that it's dependent on a caste census and the delimitation exercise for it to be a reality. Is this something that will be relevant to the voters out there? Because BJP is going to the people and saying, look, we have made something impossible possible. Prime Minister said, Modi hai to mumkin hai, and that is why you are able to see the women reservation a reality today. The criticism of the Congress and the opposition is, this is a jumla, it will not be true for the times to come. Do you think this narrative of the opposition or the Congress will stick with the voters, or perhaps the battle of perception is already won for the BJP?
Anusha, I'm not so sure whether the battle of perception will be won by the BJP, because we know from our experience as a journalist that it is the cash and delivery method that works. In the sense that people get something tangible, something doable, things are given. A post-dated check, a promise, etc. Has a far less traction or value. So I think the reservation bill, and mind you, the BJP increasingly for over years, consolidated its hold over, the OBC voters, not only in Madhya Pradesh, all over India. So the fact is that the BJP will now face up, and I find that Congress stand is very intriguing, very politically intriguing, because they are suddenly talking about caste census, as Shazia was saying. In 2010, when the women reservation bill came up, there was no provision for quota within quota, and that was the reason why it fell. So the Congress, obviously it's a case of clear afterthought. We may criticize the Congress, but it's political, because that is something the OBC voters in Madhya Pradesh and outside are going to think about it. Why there is no quota within quota? Because since the mandalization of Indian politics, this issue has become very potent.
Yeah.
So I am saying, we should hold our horses. We do not know which way the wind would blow finally.
One more point for you before I go back to Shazia Almi. So many argue that the political arithmetic or grammar of vote bank politics in this country has been rewritten in the last 7 to 8 years in the term of Prime Minister, in the last 2 terms of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Is this caste consolidation or the Hindu vote bank consolidation that has happened has worried many parties, and that is why perhaps this one-off demand coming in from the Congress party, especially with respect to the women reservation bill, that there should be an OBC quota? Is that something that you read in this political narrative?
Absolutely, Anusha, you are spot on, and that is why Congress has revised its stand, and that is why it is talking about the caste-based census in a very big way, because it knows that the BJP would not be able to do, and if they do it, then there is going to be a reaction from the upper caste. You see, the BJP is, has to do a very fine balancing act between the, so to say, the opinion maker, that is the upper caste, and scored constituency, that's the OBC. So that is why this Congress is trying to clear the pitch for the BJP.
Interesting you say that. I want to bring in Anshul Trivedi and Shazia Almi back into the discussion. Anshul, are the political compulsions dictating what the Congress party is doing? You never spoke of the OBC reservations earlier. And now suddenly when you're speaking about it, is it because the majority vote consolidation has happened, which is not in favor of the Congress party?
No, I mean, there are two specific instances where I'd like to respond to this. One is the case of the Women's Reservation Bill. So we supported the Women's Reservation Bill, and we said that implement it immediately and provide quotas. However, the issue of caste census is not something which has been raised just now. It's been brewing for a very long time in states of Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. And even if you look at it in Karnataka, Rahul ji made a statement that we're going to have this census. Because if we have to have socially just policies and economically just policies, we need to have data in place for us to make informed decisions. Now, you see, the Congress is going in with certain planks of economic justice and social justice. Our 5 guarantees, which worked in Himachal, which worked in Karnataka, which won us Madhya Pradesh last time, despite all the electioneering by the Prime Minister, and which is going to win us the state again this time around, is there. It's based on certain data. And similarly, if we want to have a more just and representative country and administration, we need to have the caste census data. Rahul said it very clearly. Just one line. Just one line. Rahul said very clearly that for us, if you look at the idea of politics that the Congress has, it's about devolving power to the people. It's giving power to the people, and 47 was just one. It was a starting point. Then came the 93rd amendment that Rajiv ji brought in, that Narsimha Rao ji passed that
No,
we
no,
gave
I
women
get that. I get that
representation in
history.
the-
I'm not saying that
we
the
did not-
Congress party
and-
has no substance when they argue that in principle that they have always supported the reservation for women. Yes, it did not turn into a political reality for various factors. Or as the BJP argues, the political will was lacking. But I'm not taking the
Anusha ji,
complete credit away from that.
Anusha
One point, Anshul. One
yeah.
question that I want to address to you that the BJP also asked you.
Yeah.
That if this bill is a jumla, why was it supported by the Congress party on the floor of the House? A simple question.
No, yeah. So what we are saying is that the idea that was proposed by Sonia ji was not a jumla. It's a good thing. Everyone supports it. We are saying that you link it to delimitation, which will take 10 years. You link it to census, which will happen in 2031, 32. Who knows what? They say a week is a long time in politics, and here you have delayed it till 10 years.
So,
That is the jumla.
No,
The
but-
women's reservation is not a jumla. That
Yeah,
is why
but-
we support it in principle.
But Anshul, that's just
And
playing
one
with
more
words.
thing,
I
I'll
mean,
just complete my point in.
Can I come in, please?
I'll come to you,
10 seconds.
Shazi.
Waited.
After this, I'll come
So-
to you. Yeah, let him finish his point.
In
Yes.
10 seconds, I'll complete it. When we tried to bring it in, we did not have a government of simple majority, and so we could not make the provisions which are required to get it passed that time.
Well,
If we
my
would have
question
had
to you was
full
something
That is the
very
point.
different.
So
Was something
when
very
you want
different.
to-
Shazia, make your
Anusha,
point.
Actually, I would
Shazia,
like
make
to-
your
So,
point.
Anusha, when
I'll
you
come to you.
want to-
Shazia Almi.
So,
Shazia Almi right now.
Just
Shazia
imagine.
Almi right now. One at a time. Shazia Almi. Please
So
go ahead.
how they feign helplessness when we all know when India the nuclear deal with the United States was to be signed, they made sure there was consensus. Surely Sonia Gandhi could have wrapped the knuckles of her partners
There was no
RJD
consensus.
and Samajwadi Party, knowing very well
I
that
have to
Samajwadi
One at a
Party
time.
was
One at a
very-
time.
No
Shazia Almi
consensus.
right now. Shazia Almi
And-
right now. Yes.
And I will speak, and I think Anshul, you will have to listen.
Sorry.
And as I waited
Go
here.
ahead, go ahead.
So and also I
just
want to say
correcting you.
the 84th Amendment ensures that any kind of change in delimitation or any increase of seats should only be possible after the 2026 census. Why did it happen in 21? We all know there was COVID pandemic. What is the best way to ensure there should be women's constituencies? Who will decide that? They're reserved for women. A transparent method via delimitation. And people believe the word of Modi ji. It has been made into an act. There is no wishy-washy attitude of, oh, we did not have numbers. We did not. When you wanted to have numbers, you had it.
All right.
Women were not worth it. And another point I want to make, my friend Anshul, obviously, like his political leader, Rahul Gandhi, doesn't listen in, even to the parliamentary debates. You mentioned OBCs, and you mentioned how many secretaries there are. Do you know in the services, if you were to have really a cutoff for them, and if you were to see the cutoff date or year from where they would start for them to be secretaries now, it would have to be 92, 93.
Okay.
And which government was in place. So it's another self-goal. The more you quote Rahul Gandhi, the more stuck you'll get.
I
So
have
please
last
don't.
I have last
And
1
follow
minute
him.
on the show. I have last 1 minute
So
on the
if
show.
you just defeat your own purpose.
I
And
get your
most
point, Shazia.
importantly-
I get your point. Chaitanya, you had a closing comment to make. Please go ahead. Then I'll go to Mr. Rashid Kidwai. Chaitanya.
I just wanted to add something to what Shazia was saying. We have Sonia Gandhi ji on record saying that the women's reservation bill had a lot of opposition within the Congress itself. So I mean, if
Yes.
they didn't have, if there was a bill, the Congress party wanted to pass it, why couldn't they? What was stopping you?
Well,
What was stopping you?
if history were to
Can
be
I-
dug
can I
in,
respond?
if history were to be dug in, a lot of people had objections to the women reservation bill, including there were certain leaders in BJP as well. Anshul, 30 seconds to you, then I close the show.
What I'm trying to say is that all this debate that is being carried out right now, first of all, Shazia ji, we did not have a consensus on nuclear deal. Your government opposed the end of nuclear apartheid.
I'm
against
sorry,
India.
Anshul, I'm afraid we are digressing from the topic. We are digressing from the topic.
No, that's fact.
I am not
No,
taking
you're
the
not-
last
you're
word
not
from Mr.
speaking
Rashid
again.
Kidwai.
Last thing.
You're
That's
wrong
all the
about
time that I
that.
have. That's all the time that I have. Shazia, Ilmi, Anshul Trivedi, Chaitanya Singh and Mr. Rashid Kidwai. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast. That's all the time that we have on Viewpoint tonight.